Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we show up and steal everything good about someone's life, because this week we watched The Lodger.
Written by Gareth Roberts.
Directed by Catherine Morshed.
And aired on June 12th, 2010.
Yeah.
Gareth Roberts, back with another story.
Yeah, it's his first story since the Shakespeare Code, I think it was the last one he wrote, way back in Series 3.
Yeah.
Who else wrote in Series 3 and then came back this season? Mark Gatiss, that was it. Mark Gatiss wrote one in Series 3 and then came back this season.
Couldn't tell you which one.
He wrote Victory of the Daleks. Actually,
no, in Series 3.
Oh, in Series 3 he did...
I don't remember.
Actually, no, maybe I'm actually... Chris Chibnall was the one who did Series 3 and came back, because he did 42 and then he came back and did the Silurian two-parter. Mark Gatiss did... the last story he did was it The Idiot's Lantern? Or did he do something
I think it
that?
was. Yeah, I think
Idiot's Lantern was Series 2.
I think I remember that.
Anyway, that's besides the point. Although not as besides the point as you might think, because apparently the story started as a story about the Doctor and Mickey having to live together because the TARDIS runs away with Rose and Jackie, this being the 10th Doctor. So in the original version, the Doctor gets stuck with Mickey for... however long it takes for him to get the TARDIS back, basically.
And that was eventually turned into a comic.
Yeah, so he actually wrote it. What I read was he wrote it as a TV script, and then he scrapped it because by the time that he actually finished it they were writing the 10th Doctor out of the show. So he was like, well, I'll turn it into a comic then. And then Stephen Moffat was like, hey, you could adapt that comic into a TV story for Series 5, which is what I'm doing next season. So Gareth was like, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. I'll do that. But then because Mickey wasn't there, they had to
use a story-specific character.
Yeah. So he scrapped it when they wrote Mickey out of the show. Rose out of the show, Rose and Mickey, at the end of Series 2. Not at the end of Series 4 when they wrote the Doctor out, because by that point...
When they quote-unquote wrote Rose
yes,
out?
Yes, okay, quote-unquote wrote Rose out. Because by the time they reached Series 4, it was already a published comic, and so then he turned it into a serial-specific character who became Craig, and also...
Right, Craig, forgot his name, that's just who he was. I reminded me of Love and Monsters in a way. But, they could have done something with Rory, but maybe they just didn't have the foresight or the...
And they could have, but they killed Rory off, remember?
Yeah, no, but they could have put it, earlier in the season.
And the reason why they brought it, part of the reason why they brought The Lodger back is because Gareth was actually writing a different script, but then the budget was getting too high, and then also because the budget was too high, they had to push Neil Gaiman's story to next season, which becomes The Doctor's Wife. And then Gareth was like, oh, we can turn The Lodger...
Or The Lodger
not necessarily Gareth,
is,
but someone was like, we can turn The Lodger into a low budget.
Or not even turn into, The Lodger just is a story that lends itself to being a low budget story that doesn't even have the companion really in it.
Right.
Companion light episode of the season, if you will.
Yeah, because Amy spends the entire episode confined to the TARDIS. And the script went through a couple drafts. Apparently they considered bringing Meglos back as the villain.
I don't think it was just a consideration. I think the story was just from the start, Meglos is coming back.
But then the little cactus people in...
The Vinvachi?
Yeah, the Vinvachi. In the end of time, turned out to be too similar to Meglos for Stephen Moffat to bring Meglos back, apparently.
That's total BS, because the Vinvachi are honestly not that similar to Meglos.
Well, and then what happened was they, I guess, went digging through the couch cushions and found some more budget, and they were like, we can do some more with this, Gareth. And he's like, sick, I can turn the whole second floor into an alien spaceship that's going to blow up. And then that's it. There was nothing interesting regarding filming. This was filmed...
In town,
right at the end of the production block, actually right before they filmed the finale of the season, Pandoric Opens and the Big Bang. So it was one of the last things they filmed for the season, and that's it. That's the only interesting thing about the filming that I could tell. That is.
They got James Corden to play
true,
Craig.
They did get James Corden.
Although I think, I don't know, because now James Corden is pretty big. I don't know how.
I don't think he was
unknown
when this was
Yeah.
done. I think in England he was much better known than in America
Yeah,
when this
sure.
was made. And he does come back as Craig again later on. No spoilers,
Wow.
but just as a little preview for you there.
I mean, the doctor has Craig's key, so, you know, you just, if they're in
This
the
is true.
area, need a little midnight snack, and sneak into Craig's house, raid the fridge.
Great, because that's what he would use the keys for. Well, so the episode begins with... Now, if I remember correctly, it actually begins with someone walking along the road and getting drawn into the house. And then we cut to the doctor and Amy landing, and the doctor opens the door and he says, nope, this isn't the planet we were looking for. And he kind of gets
It's
shoved
Earth.
out of the way, and then the TARDIS dematerializes, and he's left without the TARDIS, and it's like, well, this is going to be a problem. And then we get the title sequence.
No, we actually get him going to Craig's, I think, before the title sequence, if I remember
Do
correctly.
we?
Because I remember it's like a very long intro, and it's right when the doctor's like, I'm your new, you know, tenant or whatever. And we get it.
You do tenant.
Yeah, whatever.
This is an opportune moment. This is actually not an opportune moment to bring this up, that I always thought James Corden was a chef and not an actor. For a long time, I thought he was a chef, and then I was like, wait a minute, I'm an idiot. James Corden is an actor. That I only wanted to bring up because this is the first thing I ever saw him in, and when I watched this, I was like, man, I really thought that guy was a chef.
Really, you mean you knew like what he looked like and everything, and you
but I
thought
thought he was a chef. I'm revealing my deepest, darkest secrets here.
Your deepest, darkest secret is thinking that James Corden was a chef? Good to know you don't have any skeletons in your closet.
Oh, I've got some pretty big skeletons in my closet. I killed a man. No. Don't quote me on
James Corden's skeleton.
that. I'm actually James Corden. That's the skeleton in my closet. But the doctor pays for rent up front. But we get some scenes with Craig and his roommate Sophie.
Yeah, and this intro sequence, I was like, this is kind of just going to be Love and Monsters in a way, isn't it?
But this was better than Love and Monsters.
It was, but like it's not too difficult to do. I mean, it didn't have the Absorbaloff for one, so that automatically just makes it way better.
Man, they should bring the Absorbaloff back.
No,
Christian
they really
Chibnall should
shouldn't.
just bring him back and be like, ha ha ha.
I mean, they should just do a troll episode of Doctor Who one of these days where they bring back everything people have like vocally hated over
They
the
should
years.
bring back the Scribble Monster and the Absorbaloff and have them just do battle at the very end of the episode.
Just have that be a season finale.
The doctor should just wake up and be like, whoa, what was that dream?
Never put us in charge of the show.
Well, we've already made a lot of indications that we would make a lot of questionable decisions for this show on this podcast before, like casting The Rock as the doctor. But James Corden, Craig, and Sophie, they talk, and they're going to have pizza for dinner, and then Sophie's like, oh, I got to go take care of my friend. So Craig's like, oh, that's fine, I'll just stay here. I put the ad out to a place, this guy Mark who moved out.
Mark Gatiss, no. We get the idea that Craig is a little bit of a homebody because I think Sophie was her name, right? And
Yeah.
she's like, hey, do you want to go do something? And he's like, nah, I'd rather just, stay here and just hang around.
Yeah, right. So
Which actually, saves the day at the end.
the doctor shows up, and Craig's like, I didn't even put my address in the ad. Like, how did you find me? And he's like, oh, long story. And later on, we find out that Amy left a note for the doctor telling him the address.
Yeah, can't have a Series 5 story, I guess, without some weird time travel shenanigans.
Basically. And the doctor kind of just settles in, and now he's apparently got a little ear communicator with Amy. I don't know when he got that.
Between last story and this one.
Well, because he gets, he kind of falls out of the TARDIS unexpectedly at the start, which is why when he had this
Yeah,
ear
that's
communicator,
true.
I was like,
Well, the TARDIS is sort of phasing in and out of the
That's
area, so
true.
maybe Amy just reached out and just take this.
oh, he built it.
I guess,
he does
yeah.
the scanner thing later on.
The time flow analog, Mark II, or Mark, whatever number they're on.
7 or something.
But this one looked a lot like the time flow analog from, God, what was the time flow analog from?
Time Monster?
Yeah, I think it was the Time Monster.
Really stretching my classical trivia here. Been a couple years since I watched that.
Time Monster is a good story. You didn't like that guy in a rubber chicken suit? Whose name I forgot. I forgot the name of the monster there.
The Time Monster.
No, it had a specific
Did he?
name.
Did he?
It did.
Okay.
Whatever.
So the Doctor kind of just settles in, and the next day, Craig so he first off, before he settles in, he sees this mold on the wall, and it's like, I really think we shouldn't touch that. It looks kind of dangerous. And then the Doctor goes to his room, and he kind of settles in, and the next day, Craig's like, hey, I need someone to play football with us. The Doctor's like, yeah, I can do football. I know how to play football.
Well,
that's the one with the sticks, right?
A couple weird things are going on here. There's a strange person living upstairs, and
Right.
that's where they think the mold is coming from. Like it's coming through the ceiling from this guy's apartment upstairs. And also the Doctor's acting a little strange. He's kind of acting like episode 5 Yoda, where Yoda in episode 5 knows what a flashlight is. He knows things and he's not letting on. Here the Doctor's pretending as if he doesn't really know much about 20th century Earth. Sorry, 21st century Earth, I guess.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell throughout this whole thing if this was him pretending that he didn't know, if he just genuinely didn't know anything about Earth. But then I was like, but he visits 21st century Earth like every other week.
Yeah, that's why it was just a questionable decision, I think. Because the Doctor's really never acted like this.
Right.
Ever. As far as I remember.
I don't think he ever has.
But I mean,
typically he just blends in pretty immediately with Earth. Throwing back to the third Doctor's era again, he spends 3 years just stranded on Earth and he just blends in totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. The Doctor goes to various periods in Earth's history in various places and always manages to fit in, at least to some extent. And here he's like, how do I greet people? Do I do this double kiss thing? What's soccer? Sorry, football.
Yeah, football. You berated me for calling it soccer before we even started recording. Hang on a minute. Well, the Doctor doesn't know which one soccer is, but apparently Matt Smith loved this because he was planning to become a football player, but then he had a back injury.
His dreams were crushed by
his back injury. He became an actor. But apparently
darn, guess I can't be a major sports celebrity. Guess I'll just be an actor.
A major entertainment celebrity. Kind of kicks everyone's butt in the football game.
Right. And Craig is feeling a little bit
down because Sophie's like, man, he's really handsome when he can play football. Sophie's all over the Doctor, basically, and that's why Craig's feeling down, because when Sophie leaves, Craig's like, I just need to tell her I love her. He's like, I love you. And he hears the doorbell ring, and he assumes that Sophie's left her keys behind, and he opens the door, and he's like, I love you. And the Doctor's like, yeah, I would hope so. I'm your new lodger.
The Doctor says, I think, well, that'll make this easy then. That's when I think the title sequence plays, but whatever. I mean, you get the idea, or you see this soccer match, and it's you get the idea that Craig isn't necessarily their best player anyway.
Yeah.
Right? The Doctor's probably stealing someone else's thunder, not Craig's.
You get the idea that Craig is D-list, maybe C, potentially B for generous on this team. Although you don't actually see a lot of Craig playing, you mostly see the Doctor passing the ball around, scoring goals. Apparently Matt Smith showed off his prowess. Garbage. This is true, the goalie being total garbage, the goals having no nets, so whoever puts the ball in the goal sends it shooting 50 miles down the field. And at the end of the match, this time loop starts happening, which happened once before when they were in their house. And basically, the Doctor figured out this time loop means that someone or something is happening. Someone has gone upstairs in the house, or something is happening upstairs in the house. And so that causes a localized time distortion, which causes this looping effect to occur.
Right. And the Doctor sort of questioned Craig about what's going on upstairs. And he's like, just a normal guy, more normal than you.
Right, because Craig went upstairs and was like, hey, can I help you? And the guy's like, no, you can't help me. And then the doctor goes back to the house, and he basically outlines the rules that he's, to himself, to Amy, that he can't use the sonic because the thing upstairs will know he's there. He basically can't use any technology. He can't reveal who he is. So he's got to basically go analog for the story.
Right. And we didn't mention the sort of the house. I guess it's not a set because I guess they're actually in a house, but it's done really well. It's the clutter feels like real clutter, I guess.
Right. It feels very lived in.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a lived in space.
Right. The other set in the story is actually done really well too, now that I think about it.
Yeah. Surprising for what is supposed to be a low budget story.
Well, it makes sense. They're only there for 4 or 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, so we see, I think
I guess that doesn't make sense, actually, but whatever.
When this time loop happens, the one at the end of the football match, I think we see like a little girl calling through the intercom.
Right, it's sort of a different person asking for help every time.
Right.
Because that's how this thing is luring people in. It's asking for help in various ways.
Mm-hmm. And the people come inside, and then the person asks them to the top of the stairs, like, "Hey, can you come help? There's a problem in here." And then they go upstairs, and then we hear them I think we hear them scream.
We hear some commotion,
and then we hear a loud, high pitched whirring noise of some sort. And the doctor, when you really think about it, not a lot happens in this story at all.
Well, a lot of it is just sort of this mundane stuff, right?
Right.
Like the doctor making an omelet and whatever.
Yeah, because Sophie comes over and they're having wine, and the doctor's like, "I'll stay completely out of your way, Craig. Don't worry about me. Not going to be a problem." And he immediately breaks that rule because he's like, "I've been trying to rewire the house, Craig, and the wiring is a mess."
Craig is about to tell Sophie he loves her, and the doctor just peeks his head out from behind the couch.
"Yo, what's up? Number one cock block the doctor here." Craig's like, "Doctor." And he basically tells Sophie, "What's keeping you here? Why are you staying?" And she's like, "I don't know." Obviously, if you've been paying attention to the story at all, you know Sophie's staying because of Craig, but...
Yeah, but she has this dream to go help out orangutans.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what it was is she's just hey, I want to go help animals, and then orangutans become is metonymy just for animals in general.
Right. She was just
I think she actually does
animals.
say that, I want to help animals or whatever. She's like, "Yeah, I know, stupid, right?" Craig is like, "Yeah, that's pretty stupid," and the doctor also agrees, but the doctor's just doing this rhetorical thing where she's like, "No, I can do whatever I want. Screw you, doctor. It's not stupid." And he's like, "There you go. That's the attitude."
She's like, "Oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there."
But Craig is actually like, "No, that's stupid. You shouldn't do that."
Well, so then the next day, basically what happens is Craig touches the mold.
Yeah.
And then he passes out, and the doctor's like, "Craig, I told you not to touch the mold."
It shoots this bolt of mold into his veins and up his arm.
Yeah,
So he's sick in bed.
He's sick, and the doctor's like, "Well, I got to use this tea to reverse the enzymes."
But it's not normal tea. It's trash tea. That he takes. Did you notice that he takes some napkins out of the trash and swirls them around in the tea?
He also throws all the tea bags into the teapot, and he basically just force feeds it to Craig. He just pours it down his mouth, and he's like, "Ah, what are you doing?
It burns." Gives him 3rd-degree burns. No.
Right. And so the doctor goes to work for Craig because Craig's like, "I gotta go to the planning meeting," and the doctor's like, "No, don't worry about it. I'll go to the planning meeting for you."
Does he say that? I don't remember him saying.
Well, he doesn't say, "No, I'll go to the planning meeting for you," but he says "Oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. You need to stay home and rest." And then
because when Craig wakes up at 2:45, he rushes to work, which I guess is pretty close by.
And the doctor's there doing his job.
So the doctor's basically usurping everything about his life.
Well, yeah, because then when he goes home with Craig, afterwards.
Let me just mention this because this brought out a rage in me that hasn't been brought out really ever. This is the most mad I've ever been in my life. where Sophie comes by and I guess she works in the same place that Craig does. And
Yeah.
she offers the doctor a custard like dish or like pastry or
Yeah,
something.
like a custard pastry.
Right. And I searched for custard for so freaking long. Yet Sophie just finds it in an instant. She's like, she says, like, I found
this
this
is
in the
England.
fridge or whatever. I know, but it was just so rage-inducing that I actually went out and, I did import custard eventually from England, and it was just like, you know what, screw this, and dumped it all in the trash. No, I didn't do that.
I was going to say, you went all in trouble to get custard just to throw it in the trash?
No, but it was just a moment of like, wow.
And basically when they get home, Craig's like, I can't take this anymore, doctor. You're taking everything from my life. You play football better than me. You do my job better than me. You cook better than me. You're even taking Sophie, and I can't take it. You need to leave.
The doctor maybe doesn't cook better than him, though, because I noticed when the doctor was making that omelet, he cracked the egg on the side of the pan. Not a good strategy there.
Isn't that how most people crack eggs?
Yeah, but like,
eggs.
I mean, you pro tip, I guess, if you don't know this, is you shouldn't really crack eggs, or if you crack eggs on like the side of something, like side of a bowl or side of a pan or whatever, that doesn't crack as cleanly. If you just crack them flat against a counter, you get a more clean crack, less chance of shell getting into the egg. It's my cooking tip for the week.
I don't know if I buy that.
I mean, well, when I first heard that, I said the same thing, and I started doing it, and there was I started getting much less residue shell, like that I had to pick out or whatever, stuff like that.
Huh.
So I believe it. Maybe it's just a coincidence that started happening to me, but hey,
Maybe you just started cracking eggs better, and then you just so happened to have changed to
somehow I doubt that. Somehow I doubt that I would actually improve.
You doubt that you improved in egg cracking ability?
Yeah.
Well, so
Craig decides he wants to kick the doctor out, and he's like,
Yeah,
he
he's like,
gives
"You
him
gotta
his
go."
money back, and he's like, just get out as soon as you can.
Doc's like, no, I can't go. I got to figure out what's going on upstairs. And then Amy's like, you can't go upstairs. I just found the plans. There's no upstairs. And the doctor's like, wait, what?
Well, Craig also, at this point, decides he needs to break into the doctor's room to see what's going on in there.
Yeah, he finds the time flow analog V7. It's like made out of a bicycle and all sorts of random
umbrella.
garbage that the doctor legitimately found outside. There's a scene where he goes outside, gets a shopping cart full of garbage and pulls it inside. That's like an explicit scene that they found necessary to include in this episode.
It's also an explicit red flag for like if someone just moves into your apartment and they start
Brings
doing
trash into your apartment. And the
But Craig
doctor
is like, what is this? What have you been doing in here? How did this only take like 24 hours?
So the doctor's like, okay, I'm gonna have to explain it to you using mental transfer, and he like bangs his head on Craig's forehead.
Yeah, if I remember back to the girl in the fireplace, he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to headbutt anyone to do this.
But you have to admit, it's a lot funnier and
No,
more
it is.
entertaining when
Yeah.
he headbutts them.
Craig is just like, oh, what is this? Who are you? You're an alien. He starts communicating with Amy, and he's like, that's Pond, the Pond.
This is the first time in the reboot that the doctor actually identifies his face as his 11th.
Right.
And that he identifies his face in the reboot at all by number. Fun fact.
Yeah. And I read some continuity shenanigans arose from this.
Yeah,
on the
because
wiki.
then they introduce the war doctor, and then it's all just...
It's all just downhill from here in terms of continuity.
Right. So the doctor then... basically, the doctor then, after explaining everything to Craig, takes him upstairs. He's like, look, we're going to figure this out. Because they also realize that someone's upstairs because they're in a time loop, and then they see Sophie's keys in the door, and they're like, oh, shoot, Sophie's upstairs.
Right. So she's the next sort of victim. Mm-hmm. At this point, it's not 100% clear whether the people who have been going up have been dying, but we learn now that they have.
Yeah.
And there was this actually confusing sort of line, and I think what confused me was what you see on screen when the doctor says this line, where he says, like, he mentions the cat because there's this cat that's sort of, I guess, living there, and the doctor mentions it, and then he says, like, there's something upstairs that's been, drawing people in and using them or whatever. And I thought he meant, like, the cat had been doing all of this.
Well, no, because he talks to the cat and he finds out from the cat what's going on upstairs. And that's when Craig orders him out because he looks through the peephole and he sees the doctor talking with the cat, and then he busts out, he's like, look, you got to go. You're too weird for this. Too weird for me. So I don't know where the cat came from, but apparently the cat knows what's going on, and the doctor talked with the cat.
Yeah, but I think this is a little after that, though, because you see it walking down the stairs, like, when they're running up. I don't know. I don't remember 100%, but, like, I don't know. It just confused me. It was like, so the cat's behind all of this.
The cat's behind it.
It's a bit of a strange turn, but okay, let's see where this goes.
They're bringing back the cheetah people from Survival. Okay, interesting choice. See what they do.
I mean, with like Love and Monsters at the back of my mind throughout all of this, I wouldn't have been surprised if they like came at you out of left field, like it's the cat, surprise.
As Love and Monsters just ruined your expectation of the reboot completely, like, oh, surprise, it's the cat.
Well,
Surprise,
not the new show completely, but like this story did sort of have that Love and Monsters connection, right? I mean, it's just this normal guy, and there's weird stuff going on, people disappearing,
right?
And I don't know, it brought to mind Love and Monsters.
It evoked the spirit of Love and Monsters,
it did.
You might say.
Yeah, it did. It was almost a spiritual successor, but done marginally better.
Marginally, I'd say much better.
Much better, sure. I guess I'd go that far.
So they bust down the door upstairs, and Sophie puts her hand on this like control panel. And we enter this big room, and the doctor says like, "Oh, somebody's trying to build a TARDIS." But then the I guess like a hologram reveals that no, this was a spaceship that crashed, and all the occupants died, so it needs a pilot so it can get home.
Right, and the set for this looks really cool.
Right.
It's sort of a all black room, and it has these almost coffin looking things with alien markings on them. Right. And there's this big like spider like machine. It just looks awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of looks, the center, there's like 4 consoles arranged almost in a like a
circle.
Cross sort of, but they're like, you know what I'm saying, like an X. That's what I'm looking for, like an X. And then the roof is this like cantilevered steel supported structure, and it's really roomy. And I guess the reason why the doctor says they're trying to build a TARDIS is because they went upstairs and it was bigger on the inside. So
yeah, I guess that's it.
But then the doctor mentions that there's a perception filter because Craig's like, oh, but didn't Amy say that there wasn't a second floor? And the doctor says, yes, well, the perception filter messes like not with just with your perception, but like your memory. So you think there's always been a second floor, but actually there hasn't. It just arrived the one day, but you all think that there's always been a second floor. Because the ship's like camouflaged as the second floor.
Right. And
then the hologram basically says, oh, all the humans keep dying, but now we found a suitable pilot in you, the doctor. So the doctor's like, no, it's not powerful enough to take me. It's going to like blow up and take out like the whole Earth with it if it tries to use me as a pilot.
Yeah, the whole solar system, he says, actually.
And then he's like, we got to find a way to stop it. And he tells Craig that he basically figures this out right now. This kind of silly resolution, but not really, where Craig... The reason why the ship said Craig couldn't help is because Craig didn't want to leave.
Right? He
didn't want to leave. And the ship needs a pilot who wants to leave to be able to pilot it, but Craig didn't want to leave. And then the doc's like, "Oh, you should touch the globe, Craig, and basically use the powers of wanting to stay to."
Well, I mean, that's
destroy the ship or something.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what it is, right? Like the ship was killing people who maybe like wanted to travel or something, just to, in a general sense. Like, I think your average person is going to say like, yeah, I like travel and want to see other places, but also don't want to be like a vagabond like the doctor, right? And it sees the doctor as this guy who travels like to all these different places and stuff and has this wanderlust almost. So it's like, well, we'll use you as the catalyst, right? But then Craig is like the total opposite, right? He never wants to leave home.
And then Craig touches the thing and he basically says, I want to stay because of Sophie. I love her. And Sophie's like, you what? And he's like, I love you. And she's like, wow, I love you too. And he's like, do you mean that? And she's like, yeah, do you mean it? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, wow, we love each other. And we never said it. We're complete idiots. And then the doctor's like, oh, just kiss the bloody girl.
Doctor's like, I've been here 16 hours and I knew more about this than you.
The doctor's like, just kiss her, damn it. So she puts her hand on it too because she doesn't want to leave Craig either. she just took the job with the animals because she didn't think Craig like wanted her around. But then they reveal that they both want to stay because of the other person. And then the ship like frees them of their servitude and starts malfunctioning, and they leave, and it like vanishes somehow.
Yeah,
goes
they
away
managed
somewhere.
to run outside, and then it kind of just blips away.
Right. And then we get, I made a note of this, really obnoxious and loud kissing noises when we cut to
Could've done
Craig and
without this
Sophie
scene.
kissing. I was like, did we really need these noises to be louder than the actual dialogue in the damn scene that follows? Like, seriously?
Yeah, could have done with like a different scene here in general, or like, I don't know, just
literally anything else?
yeah. Craig gives the doctor a spare key. He's like, I want you to have this, doctor. You're welcome here anytime.
And the doctor's like, but you're going to move and I'm not coming back. And Craig's like, doesn't matter, just take the key.
Whoever lives here next is going to have to deal with you.
The doctor shows up to try and meet Craig, and it's just some other random person. They're like, oh, awkward. How do you have a key to my house? We forgot to mention that Mark moved out because like his long-lost uncle died and left him like a ton of money.
Yeah,
and the doctor's like, convenient. And I was wondering if that was like the doctor.
Yeah, I actually wondered about that too. Like at the end of the story, I remembered Mark and his long-lost uncle, and I was like, does that have anything to do with the story at hand, or is it going to come back in some way?
I was wondering if that was the doctor, like, pretending to be his uncle. Because when Craig says that, the doctor's like, oh, really? How convenient.
Yeah, probably was that then.
And then the very final scene we get is the doctor tells Amy she has to write the note that led him to Craig's apartment. And it has to be in red pen, and then they have to go drop it off. And then as she's looking for a pen in the doctor's coat, she finds Rory's... Or her wedding. She finds the wedding ring that Rory went to take back to the TARDIS in Hungry Earth.
Right.
At the beginning of the story. That the doctor picked up off the ground and shoved in his pocket.
Right, and when she picks it up, like, there's this actual horrifying sting. Maybe it was just the loudness of it, but I was kind of shocked by it.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. But it,
yeah,
it does kind of lead into the next story. Also, there's a crack that starts to form on the wall behind, like, Craig's refrigerator.
Yeah.
And they like change their magnets to say like the doctor rules or something. They have a picture of the doctor in his football outfit on the refrigerator.
Right.
Kind of goes on to question how much Sophie knows about the doctor. Because we know Craig knows everything.
Yeah, my sort of not impression, but like at the end of the story, I thought like, well, I guess Craig and Sophie now have to be together because they're the only people who won't think that the other one's crazy when they tell them this story about this alien and this time traveler.
I mean, I don't think they necessarily have to be together because of that.
But it helps.
I mean...
Like that story... I don't remember when or why we read this, but that story where, like, the doctor has been haunting this guy or coming back and, like, everyone thinks he's crazy. And it was a Christmas, like, story that's available online. And it's not really... I mean... The
one with the... Oh, we read it for the Christmas special where we announced Zenith.
Yeah,
no, it was the 10th Doctor story where he visited the hospital and he visited the guy throughout his whole life. Like, he visited every birthday. And then I think that was also actually written by Gareth Roberts, I think, funnily enough. If I remember correctly.
Yeah. And in a way, Amy, like, people thought Amy was crazy for believing in the Doctor.
Yeah, didn't she go through, like, 4 therapists or something?
Yep.
Well, so I actually had a couple things I wanted to talk about. Number one, the doctor says bow ties are cool again, which is whatever. Because Amy's
it's not as obnoxious. Like the recurrence of that line is not as obnoxious as I thought it was going to be.
No, and it's really subdued in the story because Amy's just like, oh, you got to try fit in like style wise, doctor. Like the bow ties got to go, and then I was like, no, bow ties are cool.
Yeah, and I think the bow ties are cool thing. We back in the Doctor Dances, we called out the line about the bananas. Like Eccleston goes like, bananas are good. Like I love bananas are good was what it was, and we called that out. And yeah, I do think Tennant and Smith's doctors fit with these sort of wacky lines a little bit more than Eccleston's did.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So with Eccleston, it was kind of out of place, and that rubbed me the wrong way a little bit.
It wasn't so much out of place with the 10th Doctor, although it was in the start of his run where he was kind of all mopey, like no second chances. By the end of his run with Donna, like it would have fit in pretty well, I think. Smith's Doctor is just like more lighthearted.
Yeah.
or more flippant, I guess, is the word about things. So it kind of works. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was that someone in the story, and I don't quite remember who because I didn't write it down and I should have, refers to the Doctor, maybe it's even himself, as an ancient amateur.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. He says less of a young professional, more of an ancient amateur, because Craig's ad he put out was like looking for young professionals or something like that.
He's like, yeah. Which I thought was a really interesting way to describe the Doctor.
I thought it was funny. I actually laughed out loud at that. I almost never laugh out loud watching things in general.
Well, I just thought it was a really good way to describe the Doctor. And yeah, I think it's funny because like ancient amateurs, almost like a contradiction of sorts. But at the same time, I think it describes like who the Doctor is. Like he's really old, but he still doesn't really know what he's doing. A lot of the stories...
it's kind of impressive, really.
Right, a lot of these stories come to be because the Doctor's just like gallivanting around, guesstimating what the hell's going on, right? And...
usually saves the day. Freaking luckiest guy in the
usually
universe.
Works. He really is the luckiest guy in the universe. Like, I think he is. And I just think Ancient Amateur is just such a like succinct but also funny way to describe the Doctor, and that's just what I wanted to bring up about that.
Yeah, I really like that line as well. I don't have much that I wanted to say about this story. You know, I didn't particularly care for it, but I didn't think it was...
I didn't have anything else actually to say except that the story like is weird to me because like if this was like a 15-minute short, I'd be like, man, this is the best short ever. Like if they just condensed all the like domestic life of Craig and the Doctor,
just montage all the soccer, cooking, and stuff like that into like a single scene as like a montage. And I read there was going to be even more like the Doctor beating Craig at like a video game and other stuff like that.
At a video game, and I almost feel like even 45 minutes was too long for the story. I mean, I don't think there was a problem with the pacing. Like I was never like looking at my watch like, damn, I really hope this is over. But like when you look back on it, it's not like a lot really happened in this. And because of that, I almost feel like the story is kind of inconsequential just in basically every way.
I mean, do you think it's like strange that it comes right before this big grand finale to the season that's been built up for the whole season?
Yeah, it comes right before the finale. But not only that, it just feels like everything's been at 11 for 5 weeks for us or whatever, right? And then we get this story, which is like domestic life. It goes straight from 11 to 0. There's almost like this breaks applied, and then next week we go back to 11.
Yeah, that's true. I'd agree with that.
And so I think, maybe this just comes at a weird place in the season. Like maybe it would have worked earlier and it wouldn't be so like out of place. Or maybe it's just the nature of the story being just feeling like it's really inconsequential. Or maybe that was the point. I don't know.
Well, I mean, most of this is just mundane stuff, and mundane in like the etymological sense, right? Like of the world, like that part of like our world. And a lot of it wasn't sort of focused on the supernatural thing that was sort of going on. That was almost in the background.
Right.
Until the very end. So, yeah, I mean, it does feel a little, now that you bring it up, it does feel a little strange that this is coming here at the tail end of the season right before the finale.
Mm-hmm. But other than that, I don't actually have much to say on it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, wow. Not a lot happened this week on Doctor Who compared to Blake 7. You can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Craig. Do you like James Corden as Craig? You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching The Pandorica Opens and The Big Bang. But until then, the end.